And welcome back to the History of Fleetwood Mac. I'm Anita. Today we're going to continue Volume 18, Episode 12 of my Fleetwood Mac and Stevie Nicks scrapbooks. And I wanted to preface this video with two things. Number one, my little doggy came back with a perfect bill of health, as did the kitty cat. Everything's fine. Everything's great. Don't feed your dog French fries, kids. Don't do it. Fast food is bad for us. It's certainly not good for your dogs. I'm going to guess that that's what it was. And secondly, not to completely go against the grain of what I was saying about my Concord and all that kind of stuff. I'm all over the place. You get to know me already. That's the way I am. And I did not want to just prolong that, but just I have this little haul in front of me of things that I've gotten over a while, and it was just enough that I thought before it got kind of out of hand, I kind of wanted to show it to you. And I still want to finish some more parts of Concord. So to be fair. But just some stuff I thought you might enjoy seeing that I've gotten. I've had this stuff for most of it for like maybe a couple months, like maybe just before Christmas at most. But this stuff that I gotten recently, and I mentioned it lightly when I got a record. I think I told you guys about that. But I had gotten this book. We have a great bookstore in Portland, Oregon called Powell's. If you're a book lover and if you've never been to Powell's or Portland, come see me. Just kidding. You could, but go to Powell's. It's a city block long. It's an amazing bookstore, just full of everything. You can literally spend hours in there. I can, and even books that are not up my alley. There's just so much in there. And there's a little smaller Powell's in a suburb of Portland, and you can take books in for trade or cash. It used to be that, but now it's trade only. So I think I mentioned that I'd taken some books in the other day and, was a little disappointed to hear that they would not give cash anymore, but it was just fine because I found this one in another book and I still had credit to go. So that was really cool. This book, I've kind of perused a little bit. This one I probably will not give as much time to as the next one I'm going to show you. And this one will probably be a little bit low on my list to read, not as a negative connotation, just because I'm already kind of in a reading mood of certain things right now. And in the summertime, I really try to focus on reading classic literature. That's kind of my summer thing. I've read some European literature over the summer, and every summer I just try and catch up on something I haven't read, like Grapes of Wrath or Moby Dick or something, that you normally wouldn't read. Those two things actually do nothing for me and probably aren't on my list, but they're still things that eventually I would kind of like to conquer. But for my summer reading as well, this will be on there. And then if you watched my book videos in the past, you do know that I have every intention, so keep on me about it, to go back and read Mick Fleetwood's first book and then a second book and kind of compare those two. And I thought it'd be kind of fun to also kind of bring some of this back up or kind of pit, this book against another one as far as information and or go in and find dialogue that's in the books and just kind of talk about that dialogue from the band and, mending their fences or talking about music or something like that. Kind of pulling that stuff out and, making it pertain to something else in my collection or something else that we've discussed, if that makes any sense. This one just, I don't know anything about this author. This book kind of came up out of nowhere. It's, it's quite a, full load of a book. There are no pictures in it. So there's no, it's just all story. It looks like he has written some stuff about, Bob Dylan, and he's written for Q, Rolling Stone, all sorts of stuff. And it also appears that this is his first book about Fleetwood Mac. So that could be a good and bad thing. Somebody with a fresh perspective can really just, wow us with information or just want to write a book about Fleetwood Mac because it's a hip, cool thing to do. And it's just complete nonsense. Who's to say? Don't know. But yeah, so I will get this read eventually and I will come back to it at some point. As I will with some of my other books from my book videos and just kind of bring them up again and touch base about the stories, how well it was, if I, would advise people to read it or pass it or whatever the case may be. But the cool thing about this is it's brand new. You can see it's in great shape. There's nothing wrong with it. This book had a shelf value of $29.95 and it was $13.50 in trade credit. So that was really cool. The second book that is definitely highest on my list to read is the Christine McVie biography. It would have been nice if we had had a biography on Christine McVie before she passed, just in case anybody could have gotten conversation with her or things like that. But who's to say that there maybe isn't something in there? This does have a few pictures in there. The nicest one being of her and Mick, I would say, probably because, of course, her and John were close because they dated, but, her and Mick had a special kind of, relationship. And that's a really great photo. That's a really nice photo. I think I have something like that in my collection. I want to say this is from maybe around 1990. Oh, it says 95. Just close within five 5 years. It's really nice. There are no pictures of just her and Stevie per se, like, shots like that, but there's a cute shot of her and Stevie on the plane. Kind of standard stuff, but really nice. Nothing new and unusual. But what is really nice is that, I don't know as much about Christine, her family and her background. I guess this was her mother, I want to say, quite as much as I do about, Stevie's family, obviously. Mixed family, I know a little bit about. Lindsay's family, I've met his brother. John's family, I know Jack about. I really know nothing other than I've met his nephew. But, reading up on Christine like this will be really nice. And like I said, as far as information and something that would be new to me as far as like information such, this would definitely be high on my list. I have heard that some people read it and said it was great. So they were just really happy to, again, like I'm saying, get that information on Christine. So this one is high on my list. This one had a retail value of $32.50 and it was $11.95 and it's in impeccable shape. So again, I couldn't have been more pleased to get this book and the other book in trade. So that was really cool. Next thing, so I got those about 2 weeks ago, I want to say. This came in the mail just the other day. This was really cute. I don't know, some of you might have seen, I posted it in some of the groups. This book came out, this is a comic book, I should say. I want to say this book came out, what year does it say it came out in? Or does it? Let's see here. I don't know, actually. I want to say about a year or two ago at the most. And it was really, it was like $20, but I want to say it was like a bundle. And I want to say that you got this one, a different cover, hardbound, and then a soft cover one that looked more like a comic book, but I could be mistaken. It seems like I definitely know there's two covers, but I think there's a third as well. This has no year in it whatsoever, which is really weird. It's just really weird for a company to not put a year at all. That's really strange. Anyway, it is like I said, a comic book. It is written by, it's Stevie Nicks' Female Force. And I think it was, if I'm not mistaken, it's kind of a line. I think that they've done, a couple other artists and such. It is put out by Tidal Wave Productions. And it's really cute, this little image of Stevie on the back. It focuses on Stevie mixed in with Welsh mythology, like, kind of starts out with the Queen of Rhiannon. So it starts out with that and then kind of converges into, and then we had Stevie Nicks. So it's about Stevie Nicks more, growing up to be that kind of, Queen of Rhiannon, the Three Birds of Rhiannon, the singer of Rhiannon, if you will. Super cute. I think the artwork is not quite manga. I think that's not the right word. My boyfriend had a certain term for this kind of artwork and I don't remember what it was. But, it starts out with her, like I was born, Stephanie Lynn Nicks and what year. And so it just kind of, we'll go back to her childhood and then kind of incorporate this, dream-like state like this right here, where she can almost place this outfit from about 1975. You know what I'm talking about, I think. She has that like kind of like long skirt and a little short. I think so anyway. And then it goes back to her, being runner-up, homecoming or prom, homecoming queen. And then it goes on, her meeting Lindsay, but then there's this kind of romantic side of, again, Rhiannon and such. It's super, I just think it's adorable. I think it's great how they kind of mend the two things. I love the artwork. I think it's adorable. And of course, I love that it's, Stevie. It's great. Here we're meeting Lindsay, but, I was a cleaning lady and Lindsay just wrote music and such. Then we come to the infamous, I was crying and he's telling me not to be a baby and all that kind of stuff. And then moves on from there to, they get a record deal. And then it kind of jumps to 75. And I mean, again, you can see this outfit. You know what this picture is a copy of, if you will, just joining Fleetwood Mac or being Buckingham Nicks really on stage. And it's really cute. I would love it if they went forward and kept going. I mean, they kind of get to this part here, which is like, it was quite a ways later. And maybe they didn't need to add that. It's cute. And I found it for $4.02. There was an ad, like I said, and it was $4.02. And I thought, yeah, for $4.02, I can get this. Not that I wouldn't have respected and given them $20 if and when I'd had it when it had first come out, but I think this was a great deal for that, and I'm very happy. And I would very much like to get the other cover, and if I'm correct, the third part or whatever it is. Which brings me to the fact that when I've gone through my collection in the past, I have not ever brought up this stuff. I don't believe. This is very old. This is nothing new, but this was a really cool comic book that had come out. And then these people ended up coming to one of the Comic Cons I worked, and I had them sign it all, and I was kind of asking them about it. And other than this cover, there is a ton of references to Fleetwood Mac throughout the whole thing. It is not about Fleetwood Mac whatsoever. It is about this couple and relationships and such like that. But it will put certain lyrics in. They'll just Fleetwood Mac. The theme of Fleetwood Mac runs through the entire thing. And I want to say they had signed it all for me, but only this one had the cover, I think. That was Fleetwood Mac related. Well, there's this looks like Debbie Harry here. And they signed Hey Need. You see that on there? That's cute. Yeah, just all of them are signed. But this was really cool. But this one, like I said, I love this cover. And I remember seeing this. And it's funny because I also remember talking to somebody some time ago about like, hey, it'd be really cool if somebody did like a Fleetwood Mac comic book. And I'm not saying these guys did that. I'm just saying I always thought it would be kind of cool if they had done something. So if somebody could do something between this and this, that would be amazing. I think that would be really cool. So that is that stuff. But kind of coming back to this for a second. So sorry, my mouth is dry. Probably because I talk too much. I thought it was really cute that this was in here. Where'd it go here? It's so funny that I got this and I'm like, oh, I've been meaning to show. So in this little comic book, there's this, this little copy of a flyer here where they had gotten, one of their first gigs. And it says here, our success grew, and instead of high school dances and special civic events, we became San Francisco Bay's premier band. We opened for the Guess Who and B.B. King, Jefferson Airplane, Janis Joplin, and Jimi Hendrix. Well, just at Christmas time, I acquired, finally, for the first time in my life, an original flyer, a little handbill flyer. And it's really funny that it's in the book like that. And this is one of my new pride and joys, and it just says Fritz right there. It's got a couple Mars on it, kind of goes through into the back. You can see it's kind of weathered. It was a great deal. But then the person who had it had some more. And so then I was like panic stricken that I just got taken for a ride, and that these were just, made to look kind of weathered and old and such like that. But after a little more digging and through feedback and stuff like that, and I mean, I'd already bought it, but this is authentic. So that is really cool. This is one of my first pieces of like real authentic Fritz material. I have like the Fritz playing cards, that came from Winco. Still another video I need to do. And some photos and stuff like that, but like a real handbill or something like that, from the early Stevie Nicks, Lindsay, whole Fritz thing. This is really special. And I just thought it was so funny that it was, a little cartoon thing of it was put up in this book. I thought that was kind of cool. So that is new. I got this around Christmas time. So that was pretty special. Then I also got this, which is so silly, but I was really stoked. You've seen my books and I have a lot of stuff. I have a lot of like, there'll be just like this little square something and it has a unique picture on it or something like that. I mean, I do deep dive for stuff that goes into my books. And I was on eBay, which I had no business being on because I have no money, but I was on eBay and I saw this of all things. And, like I said, I have a lot of stuff in my books, and I've never seen this before. It is a promotional sticker. You can see in the upper right corner. And it doesn't say exactly promotional, but I mean, it has the little mark that, it is legitimate merchandise. And when translated, it's this, Fleetwood Mac Ting on the Night coming soon. And it is a sticker, little promo sticker. I thought that was cool as hell. That's just stuff, this kind of stuff. I mean, that makes me happy, that Fritz bill. I mean, that's really cool. But this kind of stuff, this just complete obscure, I've never seen it before, ever in my life, really makes me happy. This kind of stuff, because it's just weird, and not to go off on my stupid little tangents, but it's really especially cool because stuff like this, which is why it's called ephemera, was made to be used, promoted, and tossed in the trash. And when you do find little pieces of this, stuff like this, it's just really unique because it's just not made to last. And that's why my book is full of that kind of shit, because it's really cool, and that's why it always makes me so happy. So this was a really cool piece. I thought that was pretty cool. And last but not least, and I don't mean for this video to go on so long, but if you had not heard, this was an item that was offered through Urban Outfitters. It just got announced like last week or sometime. It is a reissue of the Fleetwood Mac Silver Springs from 1997 from the dance, and it was issued on translucent sea blue vinyl. It's just the 45. Urban Outfitters. At last I looked, they still had it. If you're in Oregon, I want to say it was free shipping. It was $17.98, which is a little bit, $20 for a single is a bit much, but if you're into this kind of thing, or you never got the single. A friend of mine got it before I did, and he played it, and he said it was just completely crap. The sound quality on it was despicable, especially for a kitschy, kind of a money grab. Certainly not from the band, but certainly from Urban Outfitters. And we've had the discussion before. If you're new here, it's a real pet peeve of record collectors that places like Urban Outfitters, Target, Walmart, all these other places just mass produce stuff, Record Store Day, in lieu of artists that are really trying to come up and get through and have their records, made so they can be distributed. I love all this kind of stuff, so I hate to be, contributing to that, but if there's a Fleetwood Mac thing, coming out for Record Store Day or something like that, unfortunately, I'm all about it because I'm dumb and I'll keep buying the same damn thing over and over again. But if you're going to do something like this, do a good job. And I got it, and I opened it immediately, and I went to play it, and I will say the sound is, there's a lot of pops and crackles on it. That also can be the case with new vinyl. When I opened it up, it did not have static cling. It didn't have any of that. I will say probably because it came out, I opened it right away and took it out. If it had been sitting in here, in there for about, another month or so like that, maybe that would have been the case. I cleaned it before I put it on there, not with liquid and stuff like that, but, with a nice brush and stuff, and cleaned the needle. And it sounded great. I mean, the clarity was pretty good. My friend thought he thought it felt very, he didn't use the word tinny, but heavy, for lack of a better word. Like it was just kind of like, you could, like it's playing loud in a room and you can hear it in another room, so you can hear it clearly, but it's kind of muffled because it's in a room and you're hearing it from the outside. I don't know for how else to explain it. I kind of get that when I played it. But what really kind of ticked me off was all the little pops and clicks. To be honest with you, Go Your Own Way sounded better than Silver Springs did. I'm sure it was cut from the same cloth. I'm sure they, took it from the same tapes. But frankly, Go Your Own Way sounded better, to my ears than Silver Springs. But that's just me. This is the vinyl, and it is quite lovely. I will give it that. And, it's a 29-year anniversary. I mean, Jesus Christ. When I think about 30 years ago, I'm not thinking 1997. I mean, good God, can you believe that? I'm thinking the 80s still. Can't see where it would. Let's see where I could get it. Does that kind of give you the idea of the color a little bit? A little bit better. That's kind of good. It is really pretty. Like I said, it is just 45. Also, I took it out and I cleared my whole record area looking for the little thing to put in the middle before I realized, oh, they gave it the little hole. So that was cool. So I was able to play it right away. But, thinking about that, I took out the original, which did come out in 1997. Has the big hole, just to compare it. Black vinyl, of course. For Silver Springs. Let's see here. Silver Springs. So you can see, let's see here. So you can see small differences just in the size of the font. The hole. Obviously the color of the vinyl. That's a no-brainer. And I listen to this. Sounds great. Which is also funny too is that this has got a substantial weight. I don't even know if you can kind of tell in the lens here, but you can see that this is thicker. I mean, when I first felt this, I almost thought it was 180 grain vinyl, or whatever you call that. I don't even know if they make 45s like that. But this thing sounds better. And when this came out, we were all like, that doesn't sound so great, to be honest with you, because in 1997, they weren't making records hardly as much as they even are now. You know, records had really gone by the wayside. So the fact that this came out as a 45 at all was pretty unique. And then, of course, we had the 12-inch version on, on vinyl. And then, but what sold and what was really, launched everything was the four version of this on CD. So there's that. Also the sleeve on this is paper, completely just like an old 45. And I will say that on this one, it is a nice hard cardboard, much thicker cardboard than that. I guess what my pet peeve is that with the Urban Outfitters of all places, and they do things to be kitschy. They are not a record producing company. They're a clothing store, for Pete's sake. And so is Walmart, so is Target, I guess. I shouldn't be just casting stones at one place when they all kind of do the same. But Urban Outfitters does certainly, how to put it nicely, they have a certain, following. It is younger kids, which I think is great, because younger kids who are getting into records, I think it's a great place for them to go. I don't care where they get records as long as they get records. So for that, I'm not mad. But I would think almost that if they were going to do a version like this re-release, I'm almost surprised that they didn't just do the original Go Your Own Way with Silver Springs as a B-side. That's hard to come by. And I didn't realize that. I've had that record and seen that record every time I go to a record store, but not now. And it's almost as soon as somebody told me, that's pretty obscure and hard to find. It's not that it's that expensive. It's just, it's hard to find anymore. And on Discogs and stuff like that, that 45 is going for like $20, sometimes $50, which is ludicrous. But, everybody used to have that record because it's so rare that Silver Springs was on the B-side. So I think it would have been kind of cool if they had done that instead of redoing this one from 1997. That's just me. But all these kids, again, are watching this, on rewind, because it's retro to them now. Kill me, please. And, they are seeing this, their moms listen to it or whatever. And, Stevie Nicks singing to Lindsay as she is just really is a statement piece, memes and everything like that left and right. So I get it, I think it's really cool that they did it either way. I'm a little bit disappointed with the sound, but that's probably really not what they're going for. So that is my story, and I'm sticking to it. If you do want this, I have seen them go on eBay already for $53, I think is the last one I saw. I don't know that it sold for that, but $17, $18 with free shipping. That was in Oregon. My friend in California said it was not the same. But come on. Just $53. So if there's a chance you would like this, or you want to invest in it, I don't know, whatever you do you. But as last I checked, Urban Outfitters did say that they still had them. They were limited to 5,000, which seemed like a lot, but I know a lot of people got these pretty much right away. So just so you know. Thank you so much for listening to me. And when we come back tomorrow, what am I going to do? I'm going to get back to Concord. I just thought you all might like to see this stuff because, as I said, it was some new stuff I'd gotten. And I especially want to let you know when the new records come in. So there is that. Thank you so much for joining me. Everybody have a great night, and we'll see you tomorrow. Bye.